have entered the realm of dead air. For the next 2 hours, you will be transported into the world of the strange and the supernatural. You might not feel the need to cleanse your laptops or mobile devices afterwards. But it might not be a bad idea.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Dead Air Live on the Dead Air Full Spectrum channel. It is our Sunday night show, 8 p.m., and we thank you for joining us this evening. We are simulcast with kgradb.com/dead-air. Also, KGRADB on Facebook. You can check us out, of course, as you're listening to us on KGRA. You can come over to youtube.com @Dead Air Nation. Also, Facebook, Dead Air Full Spectrum. And on Twitter, dead_spectrum. I have no idea. I've never been on the Twitter page ever. So maybe I should start doing that. But please welcome to the show our very special guest, Ken DaCosta, who I guess he's here. We didn't have him for Super Bowl. Of course, we didn't have a show for Super Bowl. Or Ken has a different name for Super Bowl again. What is that, Ken?
That's the Taylor Swift Memorial Invitation.
Taylor Swift Experience, yes. It's yeah. And the week before that, Aaron Bush had joined us. So we're just shuffling around, trying to keep ourselves entertainment based as well as you. But thank you guys for joining us tonight. Hey, you picked a great night tonight. I know initially we had Bill Bean scheduled on. We had to reschedule him because he's taking the devil out of somebody this weekend. So going to leave him alone to do that. That's important. So jumping in with us tonight, this is one of those guests that you just happen to roll the dice and get lucky with. Jason McLeod joining us tonight. Demonologist, investigator, author, and we've got a lot to cover with him this evening. He'll be joining us here in just a few minutes. But what'd you think of the Super Bowl, Ken?
It was a great game, and I love being able to watch it dispassionately because I didn't have a dog in any of the fights.
No.
Respecting Kansas City and being a 49ers fan of sorts from way back in the day of the 80s of Montana, Rice, and that crew. So it was a rock fight for about 2.5 quarters, but then defenses started to get tired, offenses took over. So great ending. You couldn't ask for more. So, Yay, Chiefs.
Yeah. And again, there was some interesting commercials along the way. That was always, again, especially now in today's social media, always a great big debate. People back and forth about what was good and what wasn't. And it's very divided. Same thing with the halftime show. With Chris Brown, there are a lot of people that divided. Some just said it just fell short of the mark, and other people loved it. It was a high energy show, but the biggest thing was that he took his shirt off, and how dare you do that? And people just get offended at anything nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you can find them if you go back to, let's say, Super Bowl I. You find two teams out there. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. A high school band came out, played for 10 minutes, and then we kicked off for the second half. Now, it's become a cultural event now. So I don't know, man. I'm still waiting for them to bring back a rock band at some point. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but
who could do it? Who could do it? What rock band could do it in today's market? Well, that's when Jason comes on. I'll ask Jason too. He's a musician, and I'm sure he's got his opinion on that. But I've seen online videos of Motley Crue performing, and it's scary. It's really, really scary. I don't think we want to see that again. But there's got to be some out there that are still, five finger death punch would kill it, as far as I'm concerned. Someone like that. But you never know which ones would be the top ones out there. What do you guys think in the audience there as well? Particular bands, rock bands that would be there as well.
I get the words of Jim Carrey ring in my head. Would it kill you to play a little fog hat once?
Yeah, exactly. Leonard Skinner, Freebird. I also caught on to a show. First two seasons have just arrived on Netflix, and the third season is just starting on the Sci-Fi Channel. Really, really fantastic show called Resident Alien. Have you heard of that one yet, Ken?
I have.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've been looking for these little gems.
Yeah.
And I found a few on Hulu and different places that, not high production, but
right.
Pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I enjoy the character development on this show. The main character, and I cannot for the life of me remember his name right now. I'll pull this picture up here in a little bit, but he does one hell of a job. It's one of the few times that I can say that I've burst out laughing loud watching a show. Very rare does that occur. So yeah, I'm eager to see how many more seasons it's going to go. But now, because it's on Sci-Fi, you're only getting an episode a week, where I was able to binge the first two seasons. So
yeah, this waiting 2 years between seasons. I don't know what a television season is anymore. I remember the days we used to film 28 episodes.
Yep.
It was a season from September to, I guess, the spring.
Sure.
And then you got Dean Martin for the summer or something.
And you planned your life around that hour, that Friday night or that Saturday night. Everybody got together. Times have definitely changed, to say the least. But I'm glad you guys are joining us tonight. Don't forget to hit that subscription button. Don't also forget to hit the thumbs up for the content tonight. I want to see the thumb up in the corner of our screen continue to grow throughout this evening.
Please.
And most importantly, Ken, hit it. The reminder bell. We've got a special reminder bell. You guys click on that and you'll get notifications for all of the upcoming events, the shows, specials, the extremely strange. And I think you guys will really enjoy what's coming up for us for 2024. So looking forward to it. But Ken, time to bring our guest on for tonight. And if you would like to do the honors, please, sir.
Sure. And thanks for mentioning Extremely Strange. New episode dropped today.
Today, yes.
Today at 3 p.m. And I'm already starting another one. So
80s flashback on today. So
love it. I am in a really good mood tonight. I really am. And I am very pleased to introduce our guest. Jason McLeod is a paranormal investigator, a demonologist, a spiritualist, and an intuitive empath. He's one of only a small handful of investigators who began their instruction and career working for and with the legendary Ed and Lorraine Warren, beginning in 1990. He wrote the newspaper column Hauntings for the Sacred Heart University Spectrum and Eastern Washington University Easterner newspapers, chronicling his work and experience with the Warrens. Jason spent the last 33 years helping individual families deal with the human spirits who linger in their lives and the inhuman spirits who seek to ruin them. He is also the author of Dark Siege, a Connecticut family's nightmare, and the follow-up, Dark Siege 2, The Nightmare Returns. And we're going to get into that with him tonight. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Dead Air, Mr. Jason McLeod.
Good evening, sir. Good evening. Look at that. Look at that self-promotion behind you there. That's fantastic.
Wow, I love it.
I know. I love the fact that he's pretty much on our age bracket and he doesn't have a gray hair on his head.
I know it, right?
You have to de-stress and detoxify more than you toxify and stress.
Yeah, he looks stunningly like his photo in the background too.
Yeah. First question: did you ever put your hands on Annabelle?
Never.
Never. Did you really when no one was looking, ever just want to go in
No,
there?
the only negative interaction I had in the entire museum since I started in 1990 was because I'm 6'6", is I hit with my head a dragon sculpture hanging from fishing wire in the museum. And of course, Ed had signs everywhere saying, if you touch anything, tell me immediately. And I told him, and he said, you just touched the worst thing possible. Then I asked, well, then why is it here? You know, why can I interact with this and so forth? So, you know, I think, of course, he was pulling my leg, but he was, you know, he made a big deal out of it and, you know, did a prayer and so forth. But I'm against the whole idea of putting these cursed artifacts or allegedly negatively affected artifacts on pedestals for people to go and admire, for two reasons. One is it's not just the physical body we're dealing with, it's our auric field, which extends well beyond the reach of our open spread arms. And we are walking down narrow aisles in between tables that are holding, or you know, chests that are holding all of these objects and so forth. And it's not like we're going to become possessed, but we're sweeping through all that stuff, you know, and we could get, you know, have some kind of negative ramifications. But again, giving things recognition is always a bad idea. And I just, I never, you know, it's not like I avoided looking at the Annabelle doll. And I have no history with the doll. I can't tell you one way or another whether, you know, it's really in any way haunted or cursed. But I definitely did not take any chances with it.
Isn't it
I love
interesting?
your perspective on that.
Thank
And
you.
it's interesting to me that you just, before you started the show, you mentioned that you had been over at Zaffis's house, went to the museum
I
a
did.
month ago or so. Same setup. They're just out there.
Yeah.
You can't escape it. All of it is just exposed. And he's got a couple of things that are under glass and certainly protected, but there's got to
Well, how
be.
protected is it if it's under glass? I mean, that, you know, it's, you know, oh, we put it in a wooden case. So what's that going to do? I mean, so my understanding of quantum physics and sympathetic vibratory physics is that nothing is really physical as we understand physicality to be. Everything is frequency and vibration, all right? A glass pane that you cannot pass your hand through is a denser vibration than the air would be. But is that enough to keep something that is a negatively charged or an extra low vibratory, vibratory rate from passing through and affecting us in any negative way? I just think it's
wavelengths, sound and light can penetrate glass.
Yeah.
You know, just in simple terms.
Yeah. I'm against the whole idea. I think these things should be buried in salt, blessed and prayed over and disposed of. And I've heard, God, I can't even tell you how many conventions I've attended, you know, selling my books since I launched it in 2012. But the number of people that come up to me and tell me horror stories about, especially Ouija boards, okay, and how trying to dispose of them or destroy them never works. And they actually end up coming back as if they weren't destroyed, which just boggles the mind of everybody that is experiencing these situations.
Yeah, that's something I think we'd like to get into a little bit, because there's a lot of chatter about the Ouija boards. And as you can imagine, having a show of this type, you know, that subject will come up and people are pretty split on it. It's polarizing subject, you know. I personally don't think there's any harm to it. It's the intention of the user any more than, you know, sitting around with a recorder and trying to commune with spirits. We talk a lot about intention and stuff, but let's wind into that a little bit later, sure, because I love to hear different people's perspectives on that.
So Ed, my mentor and friend, Ed Warren, warned that the Ouija board, and this is a direct quote that's been ingrained in my head since I first met him, the Ouija board is the most dangerous piece of negative occult paraphernalia in existence, responsible for over 95% of the cases of inhuman, diabolical infestation, oppression, and possession that I have personally investigated. That's a direct quote from my mentor and friend, Ed Warren. And, you know, you mentioned it's not altogether dissimilar from using a voice recorder, but are you inviting or invoking these intelligences into your body to manipulate your hands? We all assume it's another pair of hands on the other side of the planchette moving it, for instance, right? but are we inviting them into our bodies to be used as tools using the planchette? I think they're extremely dangerous, and it is intention. Everything is intention. Everything is intention is the most important aspect behind any crime, behind any action, any word, any deed, any thought that we have. If your intention is to do harm, that's
yeah. And again, Jason, when let's go ahead and do it. A lot of times we talk about generalities in terms of a Ouija board.
Mm-hmm.
In generalities, there are people who use the Ouija board with absolutely just as it's designed, a harmless game. But we're always going to hear about those instances, again, with intent, where someone decides to open a door, maybe on a dare, maybe for the adrenaline rush. I don't know. I can't get in the heads of those people. But a lot of things about the Ouija board have to do with us, because no one says you have to take a Ouija board to a haunted location, to a cemetery, to light candles, to put talisman on it. These seem to be things that we want to do for the sheer, I don't know, Jason. I've never really sat at a Ouija board, so I am hardly an expert on it, but it just seems to me that, people invite those type of things, and you can't summon the devil and ask him to behave.
So free will is the most important aspect here, right? The angels are waiting for us to call upon them for aid, but we have to do so. The demons are waiting for us to slip up and invite them into our world, but they have to be invited. But once the doorway is open and people don't know how to close it properly, you hear that argument all the time. Oh, people aren't protecting themselves. They're not closing the channel of communication or doorway. How do you know if you're closing anything? So my big thing is that the human perception is only able to perceive visible light, which is less than 1% of the matter, space, and energy around us. We are less than 1% of everything around us is discernible or perceivable to the average person or human being. So for people to say that nothing happened when I used the Ouija board is ridiculous, because we're as blind as bats without our sonar. Cats and dogs can see more than we can. And yet we scold the dog or the cat for barking in the corner or hissing or running under the couch, obviously spooked about something that they don't believe should be in the home. We should be paying very close, careful attention to these cats and dogs, for instance. So go ahead.
I'm just thinking here, it takes me back to 2008 or 9, being at the Stanley Hotel and listening to Adam Bly, which we in the field all know and respect. He's still a foot soldier out there, but Adam was talking to about 340 of us in a room and saying we shouldn't be doing what we're doing, paranormal investigating. And to this day, there is a very small percentage of us who have had to deal with the effects. Forget about Ouija boards, forget about seances, just simply doing a basic investigation. As Ken was saying, you're kind of invoking and saying, use my energy, or, do something to make that connection with me to communicate. We're the conduit. The Ouija board's not. The dowsing rods are not. The playing cards are not. This is just interaction and opening up. But we're not seeing an abundance of this transpiring. I think we're seeing it more in these residential cases, perhaps even commercial cases, but not to my knowledge. But all these investigators that are out there, Jason, and there's not, with the exception of the theatrics that we're all aware of that are out there, especially on social media, we're not really seeing true demonic attack, at least in the mindset of what we think because of social media it should be. Am I incorrect in that thought process?
You use the key word. We're not seeing it, right? So these attacks, these beings are invisible by nature. They operate outside of our ability to perceive them. So, to see a physical what we determine to be a physical object rise up off the ground and be flung across the room, you know, that is obviously a paranormal experience. But in many cases, these demonic attacks or these beings, they engage in oppression of the mind, right? They're gonna, you know, you'll feel a heaviness or a weight on your shoulders, on your head, and you know the cobwebs, the disorientation, and so forth. The, you know, feeling angry all of a sudden out of the blue, or just being generally more disturbed or agitated or angry is a really clear sign that you're under some kind of oppression. And people will go into these cases. The first question Lorraine Warren asked me when I stepped into their classroom, when I'll tell you the whole synchronicity about how that happened, which was amazing. But her very first question to me was, "How strong is your faith, honey?"
Right.
So many of these people have no faith in Creator, that they're connected to Creator in any way, shape, or form, and that is a massive protection when you understand and you know that you are permanently connected to the Creator of all that is. All you need to do is summon that protection and so forth. But when people go in and they're atheists, for instance, there's no defense, there's no spiritual barrier in their auric field. Our auric field is a multi-layered energy defense system. It's a mental field, an emotional field, a spiritual field. We have to be physically fit. Lorraine was always very concerned about the investigators, ensuring that nobody was on any kind of drugs, nobody took any pharmaceutical drugs or drank alcohol, that they got enough rest, that they weren't under any kind of stress, that they were clear-headed before they went into these severe cases. I'm talking about something where they got personally involved, because you'd put everybody else at risk, including yourself, if you weren't. But these people that are going and investigating all these cases and then using Ouija boards inside people's homes, that's the entire reason that I contacted the family in this Dark Siege case, who was never going to talk about this case ever. But when we found out that there were all these paranormal groups using Ouija boards inside people's homes when they're claiming to be there to help them, I couldn't believe it. The first person I called was John Zaffis, and I asked, "What the hell is going on?" "It's an epidemic," he said. And I couldn't believe it, people claiming to be professional paranormal investigators. So I called the principal in this case, Dark Siege, a Connecticut family's nightmare. And I told her what was going on. And she replied, "My God, if you can spare one family from the nightmare that we went through, especially a little girl like Kelly," change the name, "then just make sure that nothing comes after us a third time," because they came back after them a second time in this case. What people don't understand is, well, why didn't we ever hear about this case and so forth, is because the most severe cases that take place are most often never going to become public knowledge. Look what happened to the Smurl family and the Haunted. I think that's what the new Conjuring movie is about. But their lives were destroyed from the media circus that took place, the neighbors, making fun of them, the kids being, harassed and hounded at schools and so forth. And again, it comes back to recognition, right? We warned the family, don't ever think about this case again. Put it out of your mind completely, right? As hard as you can, try to put it out of your mind, and don't give it any recognition. Don't dwell upon it. Don't revisit it, which can draw these things right back into your awareness. A simple thought. So my first adventures delving into the unseen world began with spirit phenomena studies when I was in middle school back in 1982. Reading Dr. Raymond Moody's Life After Life, near-death experience studies. I wanted to know what happens when all these hundreds and thousands of people vacate their physical bodies, when their bodies die, yet their consciousness moves on. And all the stories were very, very, very similar. And they all experienced a release, vacating the body. They saw color. They were able to perceive colors and see shapes and see geometrical patterns and hear music and interact with beings that they could not even describe when they actually came back into their body after the near-death experience was over. How can you describe a color that our perception cannot perceive? Again, we can see less than 1%. The interesting thing is, though, that when they are out of the body, they can read the thoughts of everyone around them as if it's just a chatter that's taking place. So these earthbound human spirits who've left their body permanently can pick up our very thoughts so very easily, and that's how we can create a connection. Now, when you think about something that is a demonic spirit, what is a demon, right? Something that Ed Warren said exists, that's never incarnated in human form, that exists outside of the rules and regulations of our 3D world matrix that we're in, right? They exist outside of time and space. They can be anywhere they choose to be within a flash. And the same thing that's the same exact thing that happens with near-death experiencers. They can leave their body and they can think of being home, and instantly they're back in their house. And it could be hundreds or thousands of miles away with but a thought. And we're dealing with things that, in order to understand what a ghost is, I talked about this on Coast to Coast on February 2nd with George Norrie. To understand what a ghost is, you have to understand what we are. We think and we believe that we're these physical bodies, or we're having a spiritual experience, but we are discarnate awareness. We're awareness without form, temporarily experiencing the illusion of physicality. And when we vacate the body at the death of the physical body, we're completely unscathed. Nothing that happens to the body affects our consciousness when we move out of the body. In fact, it's liberation for people who are diseased or ill or have malfunctioning bodies, or the pain that is associated with any kind of inflammation and things like that. Eyesight being diminished. One of the most interesting examples of near-death experience studies that really hit home for me, because I was 18 when I studied it, was a 18-year-old guy and his friend were whitewater rafting, and the raft flipped, and he ended up pinned to the riverbed by the weight of the waterfall that ended up causing the raft to flip. And he couldn't get out, and he struggled and he struggled, and he said, "I'm going to die." And he breathed in the water and he felt warmth. And he said, "This is strange." He felt his arms contract until he had no arms, and his legs contract until he had no legs, and his head contract until he was what he could describe as only a ball. And he focused his awareness upward and saw the water above him and the sunlight coming down. And he willed himself to rise up out of the water, and there he did. But the colors and the scenery and the heat, he could see in a 360-degree arc. He could hear in a 360-degree arc, even though he had damaged his right ear in a firecracker explosion when he was a little child. He had, if you stick this ear flap in and you talk, you can hear the echoes in your mind, right? Or in the side of your head. But he can hear clearly. And he said, "I can see clearly, more clearly than I've ever seen before. I can hear more clearly than I have ever, because I damaged my ear. My physical body is below me in the water. Right. My eyes are in the water. My ears are in the water. And my mind, which is supposed to make sense out of what I am seeing and hearing, is below me in the water. I'm still me. I'm more alive now than I ever have been." And he felt just exhilarated to be free from all this restriction that the human body is. And most people don't really grasp that, right? To understand that we are fields of awareness. We're immortal. We're eternal. We temporarily take on a physical body or an avatar to experience this reality or this dimension for our own evolution. And when the body fails for whatever reason, we vacate, right? Now, Ed Warren would talk about, and Lorraine especially, earthbound human spirits. What is an earthbound human spirit? Why would a person get stuck? Because he said if the roof collapsed in this audience hall right now, a good percentage of us wouldn't cross over correctly. We wouldn't go into the light, right? We'd be traumatized about the sudden death of our body. And we would think about, well, I don't know what's through that light, right? I don't know if I'm worthy of going to heaven, or if I'm going to be judged, right, and sent to hell, or if I can get my alcohol or my sex or any of the addictions that I have if I go through that light. I'm going to go home, right? And then within a flash, they're back home where they live, no matter how far away the audience hall was, and there they are. So what we're dealing with that then is the play is over. The roles that we played in the play are over. but we still wear the costumes and wear the masks and the makeup, and we want to continue to play the role that we played, whether it's father or son or grandpa or whatever profession we're in, whatever the circumstances of our lifetime. We're stuck in that role. We don't want to give that up. And it's, some people call it residual self-image, but it is, you're identifying with the role that you played temporarily instead of taking all that off, going into the light and resetting, right? Where you're going to plan your next adventure. Now, the trippy thing is, when you consider our multidimensional reality, we can be living multiple lifetimes in parallel realities right outside of this reality simultaneously. I've taken Dolores Cannon's quantum hypnosis healing therapy, and I've done quite a few hypnotic regressions where I bring people to the alpha state or the theta state, which is their superconscious communicating with them, which is their higher self. And the information that's come forward, Dolores spent decades doing tens of thousands of people talking about their past lives. And how can 10 different people claim that they lived the life of Cleopatra or, Napoleon, for instance? There's only one Napoleon, right? But from what the understanding is that it's a multidimensional reality so that anybody can choose to experience the traits that these people have had, and they call it imprinting, where you'll actually go and select, especially if you've never incarnated on Earth before. If you're a starseed, if you're from elsewhere, we can get into some deep stuff. You'd be completely lost in this three-dimensional reality without getting implants from experiences that other people have had or other fields of awareness have had during their adventures here on Earth. And it opens up. And when she found out that these aren't past lives, they're parallel lives that these people are having, because there is only the now, right? Time and space is a construct that we have here just so we can make sense of it out of this current reality. But outside of this third dimension, there's no time or space. It's mind-blowing. And, people are so focused in on trying to I want to hunt ghosts. And the idea that we can hunt ghosts is ridiculous, because we are only able to perceive 1% of everything around us. The ghost is free of the body and its limitations. They're laughing at us, going, look at this guy walking around with a flashlight, thinking he's hunting me, when he's all around him, watching him and observing him the whole time. We don't hunt anybody. We don't hunt living humans. So what are we hunting ghosts for?
Well, it's a term, it's a construct, it's terminology that's been appropriated from popular culture.
Sure.
The thing is, I try not to. I used to semantics would bother me. It's like I can't wait to hunt this weekend. What the hell are you hunting?
Yeah.
I mean, is that really how you look at this? But people, Jason, are just repeating terminologies, and
I know.
it's why television, it's why media in general is so powerful. That's why they sell soap and Cadillacs, because it becomes branding. And I don't think people take a step back to say, what is it I'm actually trying to do here?
Right.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
It's funny. I want to talk about this. About 3 weeks ago, we had an astronomer on who also works with MUFON. He does all their photographic and visual analysis, Mark D'Antonio. And he maintained that alien spacecraft, if they exist in the things that people are seeing, are actually breaching dimensions by manipulating the space-time continuum. This is how people say, I saw something and in a blink of an eye, it's gone. So what he's basically saying is they're able to put a pin in a location, Chicago, then put a pin in a location, San Diego, and instantaneously can transport there. So I want to get into what you talked about a little bit more. Do you see a correlation with that in terms of spirits entering and leaving our realm, because people tend to report the same thing. They were there, they were gone.
Well, where are they entering and where are they exiting from? Are they entering into the 1% of the frequency bands that we can perceive, which is visible light? So use the analogy of a radio, an old school radio or a television station where you had the rabbit ears, right? And you would turn the rabbit ears and try to you'd have snowy images and so forth. It wouldn't be clear, right? And then you'd zero it in and it is crystal clear. But when you turn it ever so slightly, you get the snow and the static. And then you could continue to turn it, and then you get the bleeding of two different stations together. Well, both of these stations exist in the same space.
Right.
All these frequencies exist around us. All the FM and AM bandwidths and all the 5G and the 4G and all these different frequency bands, the Wi-Fi's all exist, right? But how are we perceiving them? So when you have a UFO that blips in out of nowhere, all it's doing is blipping into that narrow band of frequencies that we can perceive, which is only 1%. And then it's ever so slightly moving outside of that frequency band and disappears without trace in an instant. And then it can reappear somewhere else. But I believe that because the human spirit, when you leave all you have to do is read Dr. Raymond Moody's Life After Life, right? And that's what I did as an 18-year-old. And he's the most celebrated near-death experience researcher there is, with a PhD. And hundreds and hundreds of cases of people experiencing exactly the same thing, the same phenomenon all over the world, where they vacate the body, they can be anywhere they choose to be with but a thought, right? So the spaceship disappearing from Chicago and reappearing in San Diego is no remarkable feat at all when you realize that really we can all do that when we're outside of this third dimension. We're outside of this body. The body is insulated, and it's very limited in what it can perceive. And it's people just need to understand it, what they're perceiving. So for instance, you're sitting in your house alone at night and no one's there, yet you hear the floorboards creaking above you as if some heavy weight, a heavy human is pressing his body weight against the floorboards. There's no body in there. So how is the creaking floorboards taking place? It's being projected right into our minds into our pineal gland. So the very first case that Ed and Lorraine Warren sent me on with my friend Lou, who was a former Army combat medic with the rank of captain. He was a paramedic through the Norwalk, Connecticut EMS system. He and I went on the case that Ed and Lorraine Warren assigned us to, and excellent. And the couple, the husband and wife that bought this house, claimed to see this apparition walk through their wall, the apparition of a woman walk through their wall in their bedroom every evening, ignore them completely, walk down to the doorway, walk down the hallway, stop in front of the baby's crib, scare the baby out of its wits, walk through the crib and disappear like clockwork every night. They signed Lou and I to the case, and I brought my mother's camcorder, the old VHS camcorder. Anyway, set it up in the room, aiming at the wall where she allegedly would come through every evening. I drew the blinds. We lit a candle in there to have some kind of illumination. And Lou and I and the husband and wife waited in the baby's room, peering down the hallway, waiting to see this apparition that they claim they saw every evening. Well, we heard a clack, like a big clap, and then a bright blue flash of light, like lightning, had sparked off in that room. We all looked at each other with our jaws hanging slack. I was like, did you see that? We all saw it. And we're, okay, that's the doorway opening. That's the window in time. The apparition's going to go walking down the hallway. Now we're going to see our first ghost. And nothing happened, right? But we all saw that light. And then when we walked into the bedroom, we all detected an almondy smell, like a sickly sweet almond smell. And we didn't know what to make of that either. And we went back into the baby's room. And exactly 30 minutes later, another clack happened. Another flash of light took place, which was half as intense by our estimations. And the smell was half as intense when we went back in. And then nothing happened the rest of the evening. We were all very disappointed that we didn't get to see this ghost. But we put the VHS tape inside their VCR down in the living room before we left because we wanted to see. I thought it would be so bright we wouldn't even see it, or we wouldn't even know where it came from, right? and I'm holding the play and the fast forward at the same time. When you do that, it's fast forwarding and you can see the lines and the static. And then we let it play and we hear, we've just experienced the second flash of light, and we had absolutely nothing on the camera. But Lou picked up a heartbeat. I believe he called it a diarthritic heartbeat. And that's a diarthritic heartbeat. He's a medic, right? We all would have completely missed it, but he's trained to listen for these very faint heartbeats. He identified 3 different heartbeats on that VHS tape, one after the other. And he was literally white as a ghost. And we didn't know what to make of that at all. But when the next day I returned the tape to the Warrens, and then we all went to the class on Monday night, and Lorraine basically said that this woman is here. She's present in the house. She showed us this flash of light, right? But she wasn't going to give us the image on the tape of her form. And she provided the heartbeat as a message for Lou, right? And only Lou, because we all would have missed it. And she explained that, how do we all perceive a bright blue flash of light simultaneously, yet nothing is on the camcorder? How do you use a piece of equipment, right? That's all these people are using these days. I never use any of that stuff because I was relying on my empathic abilities and so forth. But she explained it's all being broadcast into our pineal gland, which is photosensitive. It has rods and cones. It's our third eye. It's called that for a reason all throughout ancient history. It's our interdimensional interface. It's how we have full color dreams with our eyes closed in a pitch black room at night when our body is sleeping. It's how we daydream and see movies in our minds. So they projected that into our mind. The same way that the floorboard creaking is a sound that's projected directly into the mind. Ed said, all hauntings begin in the mind.
Yeah. And it's 2 things. That's something similar happened to myself a number of years back, where for the one of only 2 times in my life, I saw a figure. A camera happened to be pointing down there. The camera at the same time revealed a pulsating ball of energy going in the same direction at the same pace.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, when you talk about, and I talk about this a lot, and I'm glad we're going to go here before the next question I have, but projection and perception in terms of that relationship with the spirit realm. And I often point to the idea that I've had cases and read about cases where people who have passed over present themselves in a different stage of life than they were when they passed. Suddenly,
Younger.
I had a woman call that I'd known for years, growing up, and she said she saw her grandfather in the backyard standing next to a shed they have out back in an army uniform, and he's like 19 years old.
Right.
Now, he passed in his 80s, but it's amazing how whatever's being projected, people perceive it in a different way, whether it's intended for them in particular or whether it's a mass sighting. And a lot of times mass sightings immediately trigger this up. It's mass hallucination type thing. Is it really? Is it really?
So that's exactly what Dolores Cannon would describe in her books, any number of her books. You just pick them up and read them because you're going to be blown away. So the human consciousness will describe driving your car and you see a white tractor trailer truck parked on the side of the road with no markings, or with letters on the side of it and with human workmen behind it working on a tire, for instance, right? And then they have missing time, which is the reason they went and did a regression therapy. They want to know what happened because 4 hours just vanished from their life, right? And they experienced something. But when you go under the hypnotic, into the theta state of hypnosis, which is the deepest level of trance you can go under, where you're accessing your higher consciousness, your higher self, they describe a saucer landed on the ground or hovering over the ground with little gray ETs walking around, right? Because they project images into our minds, or they mask things because our conscious mind is unable to comprehend it and deal with it or cope with it. But when you're accessing the higher self, it's the all-knowing collective consciousness that knows everything about you in every lifetime and every parallel lifetime since the time that you were created as a new soul, for instance, or a new spirit. It's so fascinating. The Convoluted Universe are her great books. Keepers of the Garden is a fantastic book. Between Death and Life is a phenomenal book, and it explains so much what you should, what people are seeking answers. The whole reason I got involved with the Warrens is because I had been studying as a young boy up in through middle school and high school about spirit phenomena and ghosts and near-death experiences. And then I read The Demonologist when I was a senior in high school. And it scared me out of my mind for the poor families that were enduring these cases, especially the children. No child should be.
That would have been around the mid 80s somewhere.
Yeah, 1986. Okay, at Staples High School in Westport, Connecticut. And I read the book. I was terrified for the families involved because it was the book claimed that all of these cases could be proven in a court of law because there were so many people in positions of authority that witnessed them. I didn't witness any of those cases because it was before my time with the Warrens, but I put it back on the shelf. And 4 years later is when I was sitting in my car, my friend's car, my friend Lou's car, who was the paramedic and former Army combat medic, listening to a case about the 3 Men and a Baby case during the editing phase. If that's true, I don't know. Right. But they described a spirit of a boy hanging out behind.
Yeah, I think that ended up being a cardboard cutout or something.
Something, who knows? But I turned to Lou and I said, that'd be so cool to work with them. Right. And he says, yeah, no kidding. The next night, Ken, he called me and said, you aren't going to believe who just called me. Who? Ed Warren. I'm like, come on, And Ed was having heart issues. He called the chief of EMS in Norwalk to have a medic referred to him for their team because what the cases they were dealing with, these extreme cases, put everybody at risk, especially himself. And he recommended Lou, gave Ed Lou's number. Ed called him and invited him to the Monday night class. And I said, you have to get me in there. It's time. That's how it all happened. It wasn't time 4 years prior when I read that book, right? But the seed was planted. And I believe everything that's happened in my life is a giant synchronicity. And it happens precisely when it's supposed to happen for me. And he told Lorraine all about that synchronicity, right? Not coincidence, which is a random chain of events, but synchronicity. That'd be so cool to work with them. Yeah, no kidding. That's how fast it happened.
The universe responded.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you before I bring George back in here. So, I mean, you're meeting them as a teenager.
Yeah.
What, or maybe you've
20
had this
20 years old.
conversation with them
22.
somewhere along the line. What did they see in you as a young man where they decided we're going to invest in you? Because your story with them isn't a typical story. They weren't just gathering people in off the street. So, at the risk of, I know you don't want to boast on yourself, but what do you believe, or what did they lead you to believe?
So,
was the idea where they were going to invest in you?
And again, I'm no more special than anybody else. And I tell everybody that on every podcast, but my story and my history is special, right? Because it's a rare opportunity to have been able to work with these amazing people. But Lou got to go to their Monday night class by himself. And he told Lorraine during the conversation in the evening, he was invited because he was a paramedic. He had a rank of captain in the U.S. Army. He had and he was referred by the chief of EMS in Norwalk. But he told Lorraine all about this synchronicity, how we were just talking about this the day before. And she said, okay, invite Jason next Monday night because she knows about synchronicities. And like I said, we went to the building right on their property, the Warren School of Paranormalology and New England Society for Psychic Research. And we opened the door, and there I meet this guy who was a year or two older than myself, Andrew Thompson. And he was a very, very talented psychic, one of the core group of Warren investigators. And he opened the door and introduced himself, and I got to meet him. And in the distance, Lorraine Warren is literally glides forward. She had her telltale bun on her head. And she said, hi, Jason, I'm Lorraine Warren, honey. And literally looks right through me, right? How strong is your faith, honey? Was the first question she asked me. Not hello, not it's nice to meet you. I heard about your story. How strong is your faith? And I immediately replied, well, I have immense faith. I believe that I and the Father are one. Okay. As we all are. you have to understand that we're all connected to the creator fully and totally, no matter what we believe about ourselves. And that is an amazing level of protection. Okay. And the next question she asked me, why do you want to get involved? She nodded when I explained that. I and the Father are one. I have immense faith. I believe that I and the Father are one. Why do you want to get involved in work of this nature? Was the second question. Those exact words. And I explained, well, I read The Demonologist when I was a senior in high school 4 years ago. I was very concerned for the families involved, especially the children. You know, no child should have to experience these horrific demonic attacks inside their own home. I want to help, right? So she asked, so it's a calling then? And I said, I believe it is. Well, welcome in. And that was it. And we got to, I mean, it was like I entered the wizard's castle, right? The wizard's tower. I got it. I stepped into this incredible couple's home and classroom filled with very, very serious people. These people, this is before the internet. This is before social media. This is before anybody trying to make a name for themselves and put themselves on TV shows because they capture
conversations. Wow, that's novel.
Okay. And there are a good 15 people who are very serious people from all walks of life, including John Zaffis was there, of course, their nephew. And we're sitting there and Ed comes out in this, flannel shirt, just a normal guy. They were like the grandparents that I would have loved to have, even though I loved my grandparents that I do have or did have. And we got to sit in these chairs and Ed pulls down this movie screen, the old projector screen, starts showing videos that people have collected, the investigators have collected on various cases that they're investigating. Very, very busy and very active. And we had good 8 cases going, or they had about good 8 cases going at the time. And we learned about all these different cases, and he was going over the evidence and explaining all these things, that all hauntings begin in the mind, right? So the fascinating thing is that they told us about a new case they became aware of, which was this newly married couple that bought the house, and they claimed that an apparition walked through their door or their wall every evening and then went down and scared the baby. Very cut and dry. The thing that blew me away was they assigned Lou and I. This is Lou's second class. This is my first class, literally spending 2 hours with them. And they assigned Lou and I to this case, representing them the next night. I'm like, what? And I was elated. I was like, fantastic. They see a ghost every night. I'm going to be able to see a ghost. And that changed my life forever because I understood more clearly everything that I'd studied previously about the near-death experience studies, about how we're fields of awareness, temporarily animating a body, and that there was a discarnate field of awareness that was clinging on to her role that she played, right, in this lifetime, in this life experience, instead of crossing over and shedding all that information. But you talked about UFOs, right? And how, so all 4 of us together in that case saw the bright blue flash of light. It's not like only I saw it or only Lou saw it or 2 over the 4 saw it. We all saw it. We all confirmed it. And we all smelled the smell of the perfume. And again, and then the heartbeats is something that Lou picked up, but there was no body in the other room when the heartbeats were taking place. The camcorder is not sensitive enough to pick up a heartbeat from somebody standing next to it, right? It was a clear, distinct heartbeat, but it was projected there as a message specifically for Lou because he was a medic. Mm-hmm. And it scared him out of his mind. This man has witnessed horrors as a paramedic that he could deal with physically.
Recognizable to him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it scared him about that spooked him about 50% out the door completely as far as whether or not he wanted to continue. And what really scared him to death was when we all went to Dudleytown a few weeks later. And that scared him out of his wits. And he said, I can't take this and stuff. And he literally was screaming. This guy's a huge built Italian dude with a big bushy mustache. And he was like, just ran down this path screaming ghost white because of what he said. He saw from behind a tree. So anybody who doesn't know what Dudleytown is, it's an allegedly cursed village in Cornwall, Connecticut, where people just have dropped dead for unexplained reasons. All that remains are foundations now. And I believe that was the catalyst for the Blair Witch movies. I think they really were playing on that whole area. but there's no insect noises in there. There's no birds. There's no life that you ever see in there. But Lou claimed that from behind a tree was the black, shadowy replica of what a garden gnome would look like. Whoop, the pointy hat, right? The red eyes. And he came booking down the trail, like scared out of his mind. I got to get out of here. Let's get out of here. And like completely freaked out. And that's the thing that really spooked him completely out of the idea of becoming a paranormal investigator. And I was like, I want to spend the night, you know, and Lorraine's saying that's a very bad idea. And my sister's crying, I want to go. And I was like, Lori, I mean, we're here investigating this place. Let's investigate. But people go missing there. At least they did. And now the state police won't even allow you in there.
No, they will not.
But it was amazing to go there with the Warrens and with several of my friends and a lot of the other investigators. It was like a weekend outing type of thing where you got to go and investigate with them. But regarding the UFOs, right? Why does one person see something, or why did that person see a tractor trailer in his conscious mind, but when he's in deep theta hypnosis, see a craft with alien symbols on it, with actual aliens surrounding it? And have missing time over that because they actually were interfacing with you, and they can actually pluck you out of time, right? Because there's no space or time outside of the third dimension, and then plop you right back in. If you want to be blown away, read Dolores Cannon's books after you read Dark Siege.
True. George, where are we right now? A couple of minutes till break. So.
1 minute to go. Yeah, but I definitely want to delve into some other topics, perhaps some advice for our listening audience from you. We do have about half a dozen questions and or comments that we want to get to from our audience tonight. And for those of you guys that are viewing us tonight, again, please hit that thumbs up and we'll be able to see it right there on screen. And we do appreciate you subscribing and hitting the reminder bell. When we come back on the other side of the break, more questions, more topics with regards to demonologist, author, lecturer, investigator, Jason McLeod is going to be joining us on the other side. You're watching Dead Air Live on the Dead Air Full Spectrum channel. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Stay with us.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
As UFO reports come in from around the world, the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, is there. We continue to explore new cases and build our massive database. We share our information with the world in a number of ways. If you would like to be part of our investigative team, you are always welcome. What could be more exciting than exploring the UFO question firsthand? Join MUFON, find your friends.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a feel the difference money back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Hey guys, welcome back for the second hour of our show with a very special guest. We are enjoying the company of Jason McLeod, much better than Bill Bean, but I was going to give Bill a hard time. Got to give him a hard time.
That's going to leave a mark.
But Jason McLeod will be joining us back here in just a second. But I understand, Ken, you have some updates and announcements to make, correct?
Yeah. The first thing I want to say is we're sending out our best wishes to our great friend Cody Desbian, who had hip surgery this past Thursday.
Again.
My wife had heard from Satori that he's doing well. He's home. He's a little groggy, as you can understand. So send out good thoughts to him. And I am going to try to give him a call. I wanted to give him the weekend to be, whatever good stuff they're giving him. So I'll try to reach him tomorrow, see how he's doing. The big announcement about that is they allowed him to keep the hip this time. So I'm sure that will be on permanent display on
haunted item.
Dr. Desbian's House of the Macabre.
Jeez.
I can't wait if they come for dinner and he brings that with him. He's not getting in the house. My wife's not letting him in. Second announcement I have next week here on Dead Air, we are going to officially announce our new Patreon account. It's taken a little bit to process right now, but we've got a couple of ideas for it. We talked about this week. In one instance, George and I will probably be doing a show where we react to paranormal videos and give you our thoughts on those. This will be a members only type of deal. We will also, as I think we've mentioned in the past, endeavor to bring some of our chat folks, bring our membership on with us here on screen, because I know you love to greet each other and we love seeing you do that. But now we're going to give you an opportunity to appear with us face to face with other members and go in whatever direction you want to. If you have questions for us, or if you have a story that you want to share with everybody and get everyone's feedback on it, this will be private chat, again, just for Patreon subscribers. So we're excited about that, and we want to give you every opportunity to participate with us. So it's something new for us. So bear with us a little bit, but we'll get it done. So I'm excited about that. I would love to meet face-to-face with some of the people who have been so incredibly supportive of us over the years.
Yeah, nothing is off the table for concepts, ideas, things that the audience, our captive Patreon audience, wants to see, wants to talk about. I discussed with Ken possibly doing, since I have a Frank's box, doing a Frank's box shack hack dueling banjos type of thing, and see if you guys are interested in that. We have decided to not do the Ouija board since we spoke to Jason tonight, because now it sounds terrifying, so we'll stay away from that. But speaking of which, let us bring our guest, and we'll give you all the links and everything else once everything's all set up for you guys. But
Yep.
We are going to be kicking it off finally. We've been talking about this for the longest time, but I am excited to see what we will do for you, what our endeavor is going to be. So, back to our very special guest tonight. Please welcome back to the show, Jason McLeod. And Jason, thank you again for joining us tonight for our show. And I wanted to tap into your empathic side a little bit.
As did I.
As we get
What about
into
synchronicity. Okay.
yeah.
Go.
All right. Now, as I talk about this topic, Ken and I have had multiple discussions about it. He takes a little bit more analytical and a less supernatural approach to the experiences that I've had. Reader's Digest version, 7-8 years ago, I was at a haunted old ghost town here in Florida, and I did a sort of an invitation, and it was accepted, unfortunately. And I have dealt with what Zaffis categorized as night terrors. These attacks are brutal. They are personal in a lot of different occasions, but there's one constant theme. And I wanted to give you the most recent one, which I haven't even talked to Ken about, but just to give you an idea of what I've had to contend with in my sleep. And it was in this particular one, it's always a kind of a two-pronged test, looking for that chink in the armor, these demons. And the first one is always the same, whatever the setup. In this particular case, it was a young child with a doll. He's in this very, very small room, and there's a trunk that, as I'm in the room, slides itself under the bed, under the child's bed. And so I start inviting, show me what's going on. And this doll clown, very thin harlequin type clown doll, maybe about 12 inches tall, gets thrown out from under the bed. And as I'm saying, well, show me you can still do that. And I'm prompting it. And then it throws something like a little flag, but the needle hits me in the leg, sticks in my leg. And it's just like, that's when I realized again, you son of a bitch, you're getting me to do it again. You're getting me to interact. Mm-hmm. So as I go to stop it, I go to another visual. And now this entity, this creature, whatever, and it's got a face, pretty elongated face, and it's holding my hand, and my hand is holding this very old turn of the century axe, and having me bash it in its face, and the blood's coming down, and there seems to be that constant theme of getting me involved and showing me the gore, and again, I've talked to John about this, Bishop Long, which we both know, and we talked at length, and Bishop Long's statement is, this isn't going to go away. You'll probably deal with this for the rest of your life. Has there any materialization in the physical realm for me? No. But I think that's because, again, where I am very faith-based ground, not religious, but faith-based grounded. When I went out to all these different haunted locations for many years, I never had an incident. I never had any kind of incident, but I opened up on this particular scenario on this particular night, and it just opened the floodgates. So this is a torment that I'll have to deal with, according to John and Bishop, probably for the rest of my life. Have those kind of instances come about for you in your experiences, in your research? And for anybody else that's out there, because we talked about how people have their faith to back themselves on, but unfortunately, most people's faith today is in prescription drugs.
Yes.
I'm down. I'm depressed. Take this pill. I'm not fit. Take this pill. And it's just, again, they just numb themselves. And it's a really bad way to go. I've dealt with, the best way I could put it, mild depression. I'm not going to go on some sort of Prozac thing. I think I've still got enough self-control to be able to handle things. I'm not thinking in the sense of suicidal or anything at that point in time, just feeling down. But your experiences, has it brought that that night terror thing into the realm of Jason McLeod, or is this something you're hearing for the first time?
No, of course I've heard about it. I've never experienced it. I've never been negatively affected, as far as I know, in any physical way. But I've always believed that I'm protected, right? And I'm no more special than anybody else, but it's a level of connection that I believe I have, right? That we all have, but I've always believed it in. And that's the most important thing, is anything you believe, anything you ask for in faith, you shall receive. So my advice is, the way I would describe what you're experiencing is that most people, I would say most people, do not pray before they go to sleep, or intend to protect themselves in the myriad of ways that you can. And everything is frequency and vibration. Okay. So going to bed fearful that you're going to experience something of a negative nature is already pretty much guaranteeing that you're going to have some kind of a negative reaction.
Self-perpetuating.
Yeah, but that's the weird part behind it. I mean, the first couple of times it happened, I wound up laying on the couch and staying up till the sun came up before I went to
because
sleep.
you're afraid to go to sleep, right?
Realizing that I would still have them in an afternoon nap. It didn't matter the time. It just mattered that I was unconscious. The interesting part of what you're bringing up, though, because it would happen and months would go by with nothing, that allows me to let my guard down.
Okay.
And okay, now he's ready again. Let's go ahead and hit him again.
Yeah.
And on many of those occasions, especially initially, but ever since then, I have woken up in the middle of saying the Lord's Prayer, in the middle of it. So I was saying it to escape, and then continued and finished it while I was awake. That to me gives more validation to what I'm experiencing than anything else. That instinct came in and kicked in first before anything, and allowing me to escape or get out of it. On top of that, it's hard to really explain it, to make it tangible from just my words, if you know what I mean.
Sure. But these beings want nothing to do with that, right? You start praying, if it's a lower level negative entity, demonic entity and so forth, they want nothing to do with it. They'll flee, right? And you'll be free of whatever oppression you're experiencing. Okay. I always call upon Archangel Michael, for instance.
Yes.
Before to go to sleep, I would do this, right? So, but people aren't calling upon it in the right way. And this is what I mentioned as far as my own experience. And again, this is my understanding of the science and spirituality of the paranormal. I'm not claiming to be the know-all, be-all, end-all by any means, but praying from a statement of lack, right? Please come help me. Please come help me. I'm desperate. I need help. Is saying, I don't know if you're hearing this. I don't know if I'm worthy of being heard, if you're paying any attention, if you're going to come and help me. And if so, when and in what capacity and what I can expect from it, right? That is the weakest prayer you can ever do. Instead, with conviction, you say, thank you, Archangel Michael, for being here now. With conviction, knowing that before you even finish your sentence, he's standing right beside you. Thank you for drawing your sword right now, for severing any connections I have with any spirits, any demons, any entities that have attached to me in any of my adventures in the past, for severing any cords that are connecting me to these things, for keeping me safe in all ways, always, right? In the name, the power, and the glory of the one infinite creator. And so it is. And you know it and you believe it, right? Try that before you go to sleep every night. Try it every morning when you wake up. Try it when you think about it in the afternoon. Thank you, Archangel Michael, for being here now. Thank you, Jesus Christ, for being here now. I wash my body and I wash my bed and my bedroom in the blood of Jesus Christ, that we are protected, right? Always from any intrusion whatsoever. Thank you for keeping me and my loved ones and my pets and my dwelling space, my cars, conveyances safe from harm, right? And you have to just believe it, right? And anything you ask for in faith, you shall receive. They're waiting to help, but we're not calling properly, nor do we have the faith that they'll actually show up and handle what we need to have handled. Another thing you can try. Have you ever had Bill Bean pray over you?
No.
Oh,
and all the times that we interacted, never did. Yeah.
That man, Bill Bean, I'm on the show because of Bill Bean. He's a brother in Christ, and he is amazing. He's the spiritual warrior, and he is a badass, right? And to be in that man's presence when he is praying is something to behold. And that's why I brought him in to the Defeating the Demonic event that I had last July, and that I'm having in October 20th in Bridgeport, Connecticut, when he prayed over the audience and helped deliver everybody simultaneously from these dark forces. I mean, that is a powerful man and a powerful message. And Archbishop Ronald File Enright from California, he's the chief exorcist for the Order of St. Michael the Archangel Order of Exorcists. Archbishop James Cloud is one of his men. Amazing. These men are all exorcists, and they handle the dirty work, right? They have to do the cleanup that is required after these paranormal groups come in and stir things up and make the wrong mistake. So we all make connections, right, with things that we don't mean to. We bump into things. I have amazing psychic friends, Tracy and Corinne, for instance, and they ask, what did you bump into? My God, right? Who can see the things that they see, guys, in the audience will blow you away, right? We're not just dealing with earthbound human spirits or demonic spirits. We're dealing with interdimensional entities. We live in a vast soup. We're in a multiverse, right? Where we are surrounded by all of these different intelligent beings from different dimensions, from different galaxies, different planes of existence, different frequencies and vibrations. But it's not either just a ghost or a demon. These interdimensionals, which are often insectoid. My friend Tracy described, as I asked her to look in on this case that I became aware of, this woman who's completely, just oppressed. And she would describe this human-sized centipede wrapped around the back, her head, back around her neck, all the way back around her back, down to her legs, with its legs jammed into her body, riding her and oppressing her thoughts and just consuming her. And she would just, however they do it, right? I had an experience with that the other night with Corinne when we looked into the house in a case that I became aware of. And we visualized doing exactly what Tracy does and what Corinne does. And they can see what we're doing, but they'll actually just waste these things and fumigate them, like just slice and dice, and that's it. And all of a sudden, and I know it must work because the person that's being affected is instantly relieved. And this has happened time and time again. I had my former drummer in my band way back when. He had an issue. I had a friend who's a Marine, U.S. Marine with the rank of captain, whose daughter was not the same for years, right? He said something evil has happened in her bedroom. There's a spot on the floor that the cat avoids, and then he just feels this darkness. And I asked my friend Tracy to look, and she'll just say looking, right? And she looked in, and she described this shimmering, and without telling her anything. Okay, mind you, I just said my friend is having a problem. She'll say looking, and she'll follow the cord that's connected to me, that's connected to my friend, because he reached out to me for help when he learned what I do. And she'll follow that energetic cord back to their house and describe exactly what was going on. In fact, she helped me on the case that Bill Bean and I investigated in upstate New York as the first recon mission, if you will, where she actually went and described everything that's going on in every room, where these portals or these rips in the space and time are, where these interdimensional insects are coming through. It's enough to blow people's minds, right? They have no idea that this stuff exists. And even me as a seasoned investigator, I feel like a school child in many ways when I talk to these amazing women who can perceive these things the way that they do, but they instantly resolve it. So in this case in Austin, she described this portal in the floor, and she saw this man's daughter, but it was like the Lord of the Rings when Gandalf asks Bilbo for the ring. The ring is still in your pocket. It's mine, right? And she turns into this thing. But that's the thing that was riding over her head. It was like, and she says, you can either go down that hole in peace, right? Or you can go down in pieces. And she means business, and she'll kick its ass. And it went, and she closed it up. And he called me and said, I have my daughter back. She's smiling, and she's cleaning her room, and she's washing her car, and she's the way that she used to be. So let's get into human spirit cohabitation, which is another thing, right? After reading Dr. Raymond Moody's Life After Life, I became aware of a book called The Unquiet Dead by Dr. Edith Fiore. And she stumbled upon human spirit cohabitation quite by accident because she was a regression therapist herself. So the brief story is, and it's all relevant, is that a young man just turned 21. He went to a bar. He wanted to have a drink for the first time, went by himself. And he had the idea in his mind, I want an old timer's drink, something that my great grandfather would have had. And the bartender thought that's kind of strange, but okay, I'll whip him up. Whatever he whipped him up, I don't know. He had a few, went home. Next morning, his back is killing him. His eyesight's diminished. He feels cranky and old and decrepit. His mother notices that because he still lived at home. He said, his personality's changed. He doesn't like the things that he normally likes for breakfast. He likes things that he would never eat. And so she got so worried about him. She brought him to this Dr. Edith Fiore, hypnotic therapist, who put him under. And she hypnotized the spirit of the old man, the discarnate spirit of the old man that was cohabitating him that he picked up at the bar. And he's the one that put the thought on his head, get this drink, because that's why he was there. That's why he didn't cross over. He wanted to have drinks that he couldn't get. But it opened this whole field of study to help you understand that sometimes our thoughts aren't even our own thoughts.
Correct.
So when we get into the empathy, right, Ken? The case that I investigated, I'm now writing a full-length novel about that took place in Brattleboro, Vermont. That's a tongue twister for me. In 1990, with the Warrens. And Lorraine told me, she says, the more you're involved in cases of this nature, the more your sensitivities will increase, and we'll see what those become, right? Mm-hmm. I wanted to be clairvoyant. I wanted to see like she could, right? I wanted to be able to see a spirit and know that they exist and perceive them in my third eye, not our physical eyes, third eye. And we were at this house, but before that case even took place, I offered to borrow my mom's Dodge Caravan. She had a brand new Caravan to drive the Warrens and several other investigators in the van as one of the vehicles that we were going to take up to Vermont. And I got up that morning, November 17th, 1990, got into the van, and had done something I'd never done before. And I put my hands on the steering wheel, and I said, I washed this van in the blood of Jesus Christ, that we are protected on our trip to Vermont and protected on our way back. Amen. And I said, that was weird. I never did that. I've never done that before or felt like I needed to do that. I got onto the Merritt Parkway, which is a beautiful scenic parkway heading north. I'm the only person in the left lane, and it's a 2-lane road, 2 lanes going north and south. And in my rearview mirror, I saw this car racing up behind me, and I said, I'm in Westport. It's Saturday. It's probably it's probably a Porsche, and he's going to go blasting by me in a sports car. He came racing up and then matched my speed exactly and stayed to the right side of my car. And I'm like, what the heck, right? And then I was getting a little upset about it. I'm like, what is this guy doing? I'm trying to be careful. It's my mom's brand new car. And literally the car leapt a car length ahead of me, like literally like a whack. And I couldn't understand that at all. And as we're driving, it starts to vibrate. Literally before my eyes, this black BMW starts to vibrate, starts to shake, starts to fishtailing. And then to the point where there's white smoke coming behind the tires, fishtailing. And he goes right up in front of me at a 90-degree angle. And I hit the brakes and I plowed right into him, right into his side door, blew his windows out. The van, I was unharmed. The van was okay. I got out and he said, it's like I hit solid ice. And the state police came and they said, there's no ice on the roads. It's November 17th. They couldn't understand why he would have lost control the way he did. And they saw the skid marks, right? They went back and saw all the way he was skidding around. Nothing on my side. The van was cleared to go. I was cleared to go. He got a ticket, unfortunately. Thankfully, I didn't. But I got off exit 44 in Fairfield because I knew there was a payphone there. And again, there's no cell phones in 1990. I'm 45 minutes late at this point. And I get to a payphone. I called the Warrens. I said, Lorraine, I'm terribly sorry I'm late. That I was just in a car accident, right? And there was a long pause. Tell me exactly what happened. And I hear Ed talking in the background. And I did. And she asked if I was okay to continue, if they can expect me to continue. And I said, yeah, the van's drivable. I'm unharmed. And I went to the house, and everybody's looking at their watches outside waiting by their cars. And Zaffis is looking at his watch like I overslept or something. And I walked inside, and there I met Ed and Lorraine. And we had a very serious discussion about exactly what happened. And Ed asked, are you comfortable continuing? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. And he's like, let's go. And he's like, see, Lorraine, I told you it's tough. But he only did that to raise the vibration and levity of the situation, because this is very serious. Lorraine almost called the entire trip off because she realized something seized control of that car and flung it in front of the caravan. And if I hadn't blessed the van the way that I was guided to do by who or what, my guides, my higher self, Jesus, the archangels, my guardian angels, God, then it could have been me who was flung off the road and hurt or killed even. But I always felt protected. Like I've said in the beginning, I've always felt that I'm protected. I and the Father are one, and we all are. Okay, we can all do exactly that. We can all pray over our cars. We can pray in our beds at night for protection. I washed my body and my fields in the blood of Jesus Christ, right? That I am protected from spiritual invaders in my room, right? Anyway, so we got up to this case. We went up to the Vermont case, and the audio of this case is available. I started playing it at conventions that I was attending when I was lecturing. Devin Bellinger from Mysterious World TV flew up to Connecticut to film B-roll where my Dark Siege case took place. But I gave her the audio cassette from this case, which is on the video that's available for rental or purchase, or I play it for free at conventions when I lecture there. But it's the most intense aspect of this case in Vermont, where literally we're all seated around this table, Ed and Lorraine and 6 other investigators. And the table is basically starting to vibrate, just like the car vibrated. It starts to shake, starts to bounce up on all 4 legs. And everybody that was around the table was experiencing the table coming and moving toward them. Mm-hmm. So everybody had a different experience and different perspective. And the one guy's completely freaking out. It's coming, it's coming. And literally scared out of his mind. And he was the oldest guy in the group, right? One of the most serious investigators. Everybody's freaking out and experiencing all kinds of strange things. But for me, let me back up. What happened in the history on this property, there was a woman named Priscilla who was going into labor 150 years prior, being rushed to the midwife who was waiting for her at the house by horse and wagon, and the wagon flipped and the body was mangled, as was the body of the unborn child. But her last conscious thought was get to that house. And we talked about how fast you can move once you vacate the body. So she was instantly in the house in incredible mental anguish. Where's my baby? Where's my baby? Because baby, or the consciousness that was going to infuse itself into the body that it was going to use for its particular lifetime experience, either never came down and fused with the body, or it crossed over immediately. In any case, there's no body or there's no baby to be found. And I couldn't imagine being a mother ready to give birth and all of a sudden baby's gone, right? Mm-hmm. To her, it just happened though, because there's no space or time outside of the third dimension. So that's very important. It's not like she was sitting there for 150 years in anguish. To her, it just happened. And here we are inside the house, but we were in the field where this accident took place and investigating it and taking photos. We got amazing photographs. And I was the last person in the group to head back toward the house across this long cornfield with the corn stalks. This is November. And I felt that this woman was standing behind me. Just felt it. When we feel somebody's looking at us, when we turn around, somebody's looking at us. Well, in this case, I couldn't perceive her, but I felt. And I said, come back to the house with us. He could see me, right? I made a connection with her that I didn't even realize. And so she followed me back to the house. And when we were having this experience, before the table started moving, Lorraine would describe this man walking in with a tall, shadowy form with a tall, shadowy black top hat. This woman, Priscilla, and Andrew Thompson is seeing her too and describing it. And I was like, I want to see, I want to be able to perceive these things the way that Lorraine and Andrew can. Right. I wanted to see, I wanted to be clairvoyant. Instead, during the table bouncing all over the place, it bounced all over the place and then it stopped. And you can hear this audio yourself. You can hear the Warrens in action. it stopped and then it settled down, and you hear Lorraine saying it's using all of its energy, right? And it had to re-energize itself before it could start moving. And then when it started to move again, I go, Lorraine, the sadness, and literally tears, my jaw dropped and tears just streamed down my face. Like I could not control myself from crying my eyes out. I was overcome by this grief like I could never describe. That's the empathic connection. That's the most profound psychic experience I had, other than seeing the bright blue flash of light in the very first case I went to. But that changed my life completely, because it's one thing to see a ghost. How cool would that be? Yeah. But to pick up her grief and her anguish and feel it as if it's my own. It happened 5 more times that night. The second time it happened is when we all decided we need to get the hell out of there because it's getting really too hairy. People were actually being pushed down the stairs, not like to the point where they would fall, but like literally being pushed. Mm-hmm. And I went to put my shoes on, and all of a sudden, crying my eyes out. She wanted help. I didn't know it. We're in the car, and I'm driving in the van on the way home. We were all praying over the van, believe me. And I turn on the dome light, tears streaming down my face, and they're all blessing me and white lighting me. And then the next morning, next afternoon, I was actually writing about this case for my newspaper column, Hauntings, for the Sacred Art University Spectrum newspaper, because I was writing about our cases. People wanted to know what was going on. And it was in the afternoon, I'm writing about it, and I said, I need to call Lorraine. So I called Lorraine. Lorraine, that was just amazing. Thank you, for including me. When are we going back? Well, we haven't even unpacked yet. She said, I said, I was the newest guy. I was the newest member of the New England Society for Psychic Research. I was
jacked up, man,
I said, okay, have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow night, Monday night at class. Hang up. Type. Lorraine, I really strongly feel like we need to go back there immediately. I said, Jason, we don't know how to contact the family. They fled the house. We don't have permission to return. We have to go over all the evidence. We'll see you tomorrow night, and we'll go over it then. And I said, okay, I'm sorry for bothering you. I'm just really excited about it. Hung up, right? Literally a minute later, Lorraine, Jason, are you writing about this case for your column? Mm-hmm. Yes. You're drawing her right to you. She's the one that's saying, call Lorraine, because she wanted help. Now, I couldn't differentiate my thoughts from this woman that I made a connection with right in my own house. So we're talking about how we can pick up different attachments and entities and so forth. In this case, it was just a desperate woman that I used my free will to look behind me and say, hey, come back to the house with us. I invited her, right? Thankfully, she was just an earthbound human spirit. And if I knew then what I know now, I would have said, your baby's waiting for you in the light. And all I do now, when I cross or pass the cemetery, whether I sense anything in the cemetery or not, most often I don't, I just say, thank you, Archangel Gabriel, for being here now. Believing it so, for taking any spirits inside that cemetery home to God, right? In the name and the power and the glory of the one creator, and so it is. Leave it to them. Call them to be the intermediary or the messenger, Gabriel, the messenger angel, to take them across. It's so easy to do, and we won't perceive it because we're not clairvoyant. Again, we can see 1% of everything around us.
Right.
It's amazing stuff, and I'm so happy to be able to just share this information. And to me, it's an amazing sequence of events that took place that really, I believe it's just meant to be.
Well, I know that we are going to get to some commentary now because people in chat, Jason, appreciate it just as much. And I want to give you an opportunity to respond to them. Let's start with Jeff Hilton, who wants to know, if you acknowledge an item for what it may have, are you giving it power? I assume this is an inanimate object.
So look at a baby doll that a little girl plays with, right? And she treats it like it's real, and she loves it, and she bombards it with loving energy, and she names it and things like that. And she's just broadcasting her own energy onto that doll. That doll, everything is frequency and vibration. So we have something that are called thought forms as well. So something, a perpetual thought form can actually manifest and grow into something that's actually semi-conscious. So with an object, whether it's a crucifix hanging on the wall, or a doll you pick up at an estate sale that you think might be, haunted or negatively affected, my mom's been an antique dealer her entire life, and we've never had any kind of issues with any of the objects that she's brought in or into the stores and into the homes and things like that. So at least something that I haven't detected. But an object is an object, but everything is frequency and vibration. I don't really understand what the actual question is, but if you want to clear or cleanse an object, again, thank you, Archangel Michael, for being here now, for drawing your sword, and for clearing anything that's associated with this object that shouldn't be attached to it, and for transmuting it into love, the highest vibration there is, and for removing it from my life forever. So be it, right? But salt is the great leveler, sea salt. And if you wanted to clear something, you lay it in a container of salt, right? And you pour salt over top of it, you pray over it, and again, thank you for whatever it is you want.
One of the things that we love about this show, when we have people like yourself on, Jason, we get to have a conversation and share our perspectives, but we're always mindful that there may be someone out there that's watching us, listening to us, that may have something going on for themselves. In the case of Joe Fox, thanks, Joe. I'm plagued with negative dreams almost every night. Some scary, and most are about bad things that can happen in real life. Very rare are my dreams happy or positive. And I know you talked a little bit about this with George, but how would you counsel Joe on something that he's experiencing?
Joe, I would look at everything that you have in your room, right? Every object that's placed in your room, every book in your room, anything that you keep in your room. Our bedrooms especially should be looked at as our temple, if you will, right? Through which our body sleeps in. We are actually vacating the body because the soul does not require sleep. So what we can actually go off, and Dolores Cannon talks about this too, is that we can actually experience entire lifetimes in the 8-hour period that we're off, that our body is sleeping. The soul's not just going to sit around and go, it's going to go off and experience things outside of this dimension, outside of time or space. So with your bedroom, especially, what Dolores Cannon suggests to do is you visualize this shimmering white pyramid of light that comes down over your bed, completely covering it and going underneath it, right? So you're surrounded in this pyramid of white light. And white is a very high vibration. Black is a very low vibration. And you visualize this as an impenetrable protection for yourself, for your body, while your soul is off experiencing things. But praying at night, I doubt that, and myself included, I don't pray as much as I should, or declare my intentions that I'll have a restful sleep. Thank you, Jesus Christ. Thank you, Archangel Michael. Thank you, Gabriel, for being here with me as my body sleeps, and for ensuring that I have a sound and restful and peaceful sleep filled with good dreams, right? Thank you for protecting me and for keeping any negative energies outside of my room and outside of my house. This is the Lord's house. Thank you for sending a legion of holy warrior angels into this house to protect me and everyone inside it, in Jesus' name. Hyssop, Hyssop oil is mentioned in the Bible. And it's an essential oil, things like $25, $30, but it is a high vibrational oil. Make the sign of the cross over your pineal gland, which is your interdimensional interface, right? And bless that and bless your body. Be careful what you watch and read and listen to before you go to sleep. So if we focus our awareness on all these dark things, so many people watch all these paranormal shows, and I'm proud to say I've never watched a single one of them. And horror movies and reading terrible, horrible, scary things, you're focusing your awareness on those things. And, what we focus on during our day, sometimes we have flashes in our dreams mirroring some of those things. So, start a day, try a full day if you can, waking up in the morning and praying for protection, right? And trying to stay in a high vibrational state. Don't watch any of the news. Don't watch any of the stuff that people are engrossed in, and see the beauty in nature and know that you are a field of awareness. So here's something we can all try together. And I did this last night on Grace Cesaro's show. We had a 4-hour podcast last night. Hi, Grace. Everybody close your eyes if you want to participate in this. You visualize a golf ball sized, brilliant golden light in your heart. So bright, it's blinding white golden light. It is your God spark. It's your connection to Creator that you can never lose. It's always within your heart. It's always there. It's blindingly bright, and you visualize it expanding left and right, front and back, top and bottom, until it's growing into the size of a softball, a basketball, a medicine ball. It's now expanded beyond your physical body, above your head, below your feet, behind your back, in front of your chest. You are now completely encapsulated in a brilliant golden bubble of light. And this is Christ's light. This is Christ's consciousness. This is your connection to Creator, the most powerful force in the universe that nothing can touch. And you visualize yourself inside this shimmering golden field of energy. It's internally permeable, so any thoughts and negative thoughts that you have inside can escape it, but nothing can penetrate it from the outside. And you can visualize the sign of the cross in the middle. You can visualize golden flame in this, or green flame in the center, violet light coming down from above your head, through the top of your head, into your heart, down into your feet, down into the earth. Violet is a very, very high vibrational color. And know that you are protected. I am protected. I am fully protected by this field of golden light, and nothing that seeks to do me harm has permission to enter it, nor is it possible to enter it or penetrate it. In Jesus' name, amen. That type of stuff. Visualize. And we can't see it because we're not clairvoyant. We can only see visible light, but it's there, and you can feel how different you feel when you do that. Take a bath. If you have a bathtub, fill it with hot water, pour in 2 cups of sea salt. Get some essential oil of lavender or hyssop and drop 6 drops or 7 drops in that water and soak in it and dunk your head and visualize yourself literally being baptized by this high vibrational water, and love your body. Say, this is my body. This is my temple. This is my mind. I am fully protected because I am connected to my Creator. And by asking my Creator for help, it's instant. And I know it's going to work. Dunk your head. And a salt bath, you feel so amazing when you're done with that, because it's literally, it just binds with negative energy and just sloughs it off. And you'll feel so much better. And all these things are cumulative, right? The more you practice it and the more you put it into practice, it'll work. So here is frankincense and myrrh, right? You can get this at a Catholic supply store. You can get it on Amazon. I specialize in suffumigation or suffumigation, which is a Catholic ritual for blessing places using frankincense and myrrh. And you get charcoal discs. You light it from the bottom until it sparks. You put it into a metal dish. You wait until the edges turn white and starts to smoke, and you drop 10 to 15 pellets of the frankincense and myrrh on there, and it creates this high vibrational smoke. All right. It is repulsive to anything of a negative polarity, negative nature. It's like we get repelled when we smell a skunk. We can't wait to get out of that range, where the skunk smell is expanded. They cannot stand it, right? And it's sage is a very high frequency smoke too. So the American native tribes and so forth used sage because that's what was available to them, but they knew the frequency is high. Violet, right? That's why Catholic priests wear purple stoles during confession and purple stoles during exorcism, because it helps protect them from all the negative energy being cast upon them from confession, people confessing all their secrets, and from the demonic during exorcisms and so forth. So with violet, there's a lot of people that I mentioned in the Dark Siege analysis section of my book about which crystals are very good for absorbing negative energy, for blocking negative energy and so forth. And they're all very real. All the ancient cultures knew about them. But a violet crystal, like an amethyst, it doesn't matter the size of the crystal, it's the color or the hue. So the deeper the purple, the more powerful it is versus a whiter gemstone that's larger. But all of these things matter, and they, like I said, they're all cumulative.
Mm-hmm. Just want to run down a couple of things. If you are interested in Jason's writings, we have the website going across the bottom of the screen, darksiege.com. And let's show you a little bit, something we gathered. Here you go. College with the Warrens.
Yeah. So I was the president of my fraternity at the time in Washington State. I transferred out to Eastern Washington to get my English creative writing degree. And word got around that I worked with the Warrens. I was the president of my fraternity at the time. So I worked with the university to have them flown out to do their lecture. And I had them to our fraternity house. And that was just a photo we had when I was up there and taking a photo with them. And
excellent. And this, Jason's book, Dark Siege, Connecticut Family's Nightmare. And I'm just going to throw this up there too. With the follow-up, Dark Siege 2, The Nightmare Returns. And again, you can get those at darksiege.com and find out a lot more about Jason McLeod on that particular website. I want to get to this as well for those people. I know some of you are in Australia. Jason, I don't know if you're going to make it to Australia this year, but I want to put this up. And this is his appearance schedule, and I'll leave it up there for a few seconds wherever you are. I know we have people in Minnesota. I know we have people in Michigan, here in New England, and so forth. Rhode Island Comic Con, I think that's where you and I are going to cross paths, Jason.
Good.
Yep, looking forward to it.
So I'll be in Novi, Michigan, Motor City Nightmares. I actually lectured last fall and presented that audio from the case that took place in Vermont there. That was actually the second place that I debuted that. And now I have the audio, the whole documentary video that was made, which is on vimeo.com.
Yeah, and I was just looking at the Fan Expo in Boston. That's a monster too. Question for you before we get on out of here. We've got about 7 minutes or so. As an empath, do you find that is a valuable tool in determining the nature of a spirit, whether it's malevolent, benign? Do you connect to it in that matter and immediately get, okay, this is what we're dealing with. This is the course of action? Because everything you tend to probably is not demonic. I know that people will call on you for that specific reason, but hauntings take many forms. You could have a familial spirit. There are a lot of things. So in connecting with those spirits, is that something valuable that you try to? How does it work? Do you reach out or do they come to you?
So empathy is the ability to sense emotion. You'll sit in a room and you'll feel the emotions other people are experiencing themselves. You'll pick up illnesses, the feeling of illnesses or the effects of illnesses, for instance, from people. As a lead vocalist in a progressive metal band, we were performing in all these metal venues, and the energy in these places and a lot of the bands are just very dark and just very, they don't feel right. They don't feel good. And you end up actually feeling drained of energy when you go home. And that's when a cleansing takes place. I have a good friend, Corinne, who's listening in Australia. And she helps me with the graphic novel and a lot of my graphics. And I'm so grateful for all of her assistance. But she knows full well when I'm feeling like I need to turtle, I call it. I just need to just go inward and shut the world out and spend the day sloughing off all this negative energy through the sea salt baths, frankincense and myrrh, right? Sitting in that smoke to wipe all that stuff away, because I pick up other people's stuff, and it's a blessing and a curse. It helps. Empaths, I believe, are transmuters of a lot of this dark energy too. We actually transmute it, but we take it upon ourselves into our own fields to be transmuted, but we feel the effects of it, and it's not a pleasant feeling. And it's why I have that ability or gift or curse, I don't know, except other than that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Do you find that you're energetically depleted, Jay?
Oh, yeah. You can. I've taken Reiki level 2. I've done Reiki healing. I'm a massage therapist. I've done pranic healing. So pranic healing, for instance, they're very aware of our electromagnetic field, and that when your car windshield gets grimy to the point where you have to go get a car wash, you feel wonderful when the car is clean. And I feel wonderful going to the car wash myself because I feel like my fields are getting clean myself. Mm-hmm. But the pranic healing is actually sweeping the fields. Like if you had Mickey Mouse gloves on and you're sweeping somebody's aura and pulling off all the gunk, and you can actually feel it in your hands. We're all psychic. We just don't put any time into it. You can feel the energy in your hands. If you put your hands together and close your eyes and feel the energy between your hands with your fingers closed, you'll do this enough times where you can actually start palpating and feeling energy in between your hands. And that's how you first start to get a sense for energy and so forth. But I know for a fact that I feel 100 times better when I get a pranic healing, my teacher in San Antonio, to work on me remotely. Right? How is that possible?
Yeah, right. How's that work?
Because there's no separation. We're all connected with each other. We're all energetic waveforms. We're waveforms flashing in and out of this reality, and we're also particles. And that's the quantum physics aspect of it. But we're all connected to one another. So us having this conversation, we're corded to one another. So with pranic healing, you cut the cords, right? And you pull them, and you pull them out by the roots. So you're not affected by or affecting other people's energy once that connection takes place. After I would do a show with the band and play for all these people, or after I do a lecture and so forth, I'd be wasted the next day because I'm connected to everybody, especially if we're having a conversation and people find it interesting, or they, find it appealing or so forth, or, my amazing good looks really, no, I'm like, but
I can empathize.
Yeah, we've all been there. But this is what they talk about because being in a band many years ago, you're getting that immediate energy. You're feeding off that kind of thing. People who are there to have a good time of like a like mind, connect intrinsically. Yeah. So you have that energy that you're basically swapping back and forth with each other.
Yeah.
True. Jason, what's the one message for our audience tonight that you would like to relay to them with regards to whether it's their interest or active roles within the paranormal? What advice or guidance would you like to provide for them? We got about 2 minutes.
So we are fields of awareness temporarily animating a physical body. We're not physical as we understand physicality to be. And nothing that happens to the body affects our soul or our consciousness, which we shed the body and we look at it like it's a used car at that point. We don't care about it. We don't care where it's interred or whether it's burnt into ash, right? You don't care anymore. And your goal is to cross through that light and go on. My purpose in getting involved was to understand near-death experiences, the human spirit. The universe aligned me with the Warrens, the most incredible teachers that I could have ever asked for at the time in 1990, to explore and understand these cases better. But my purpose is always to tell people we are always connected to Creator. We're never separate. You can call upon the power of God and the angels to protect you. They're waiting. They're ready, willing, and able. But my number one message, and the reason I wrote about this case, Dark Siege, which I call Dark Siege because these forces laid siege to this family, is to help them understand, do not open doorways and don't talk to strangers. We're told never talk to strangers, right? In that regard, because you don't know who you're really talking to, especially when you can't perceive them. But don't open doorways through which things can come that intend to ruin your life and that could likely succeed, at least for a period of time. Focus on the positive, wonderful things of life, about life. I'm telling you, we survive the death of the physical body. So there's nothing to be looking for. We're here to incarnate on this world, to live and experience what this world has to offer. Why we're so focused on ghosts and what happens once we leave, we'll understand that when it happens. There's nothing you're going to gain. What did I gain from working with the Warrens and from delving into this whole field? It just solidified my understanding that we're fields of awareness, temporarily taking upon an avatar to experience these things, multiple things, good and bad, because our soul sought that experience.
Yeah,
but
it's part of our evolution.
Yeah, I can honestly say, speaking for our audience, that we are well aware of how wonderful it's been having you join us tonight. It's an absolute blessing, and hopefully bringing it back again. Again, looking at your schedule, we know that you're going to be crazy busy over this next year, but when that window of opportunity comes about, please give us a holler. We'd love to have you back.
Come home sometime.
Yeah, maybe from the conventions that I work or something, when it's winding down at the end of a Sunday or something, or during the off days. I'm doing the conventions on the weekends, but I'm actually going to be starting to schedule my own lectures in those cities during on the Thursdays or Tuesdays or something like that, or Sunday evenings, to maximize my time there. But thank you very much for having me, and I thank Bill Bean for not being available and for
putting
allowing
this together.
I come in.
And we will.
Awesome.
We will get Bill Bean on. Yes. All right, guys. That does it for us for our Sunday night. I want to thank you again for all joining us. Hit that subscribe button, the thumbs up, and the reminder bell. We'll be back next week at the same time. Until then, on behalf of Ken DaCosta, my name is George Lopez. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.